people. So it is Joe. It's all Leeds TV. Bit of a different setting. Bit of different people with us today. I thought we'd do a video, just touch on really the Championship elite. Some might say the top 6, the ones that matter. And of course bring along the best bloggers, podcasters from them teams as well, and get us all together. And huge news coming out today, of course, and we'll touch on that a little bit later on. It's as if I knew this news was coming out. It's an ideal time to get everyone's thoughts on the season, how that's going to pan out, how that's going to end, and of course, the COVID-19 situation. So what I'll do is I'll let the lads introduce themselves. I will put all their links, descriptions, all that in the description. So like I say, check them out. Be sure to do that. And we'll start, I guess, from worst, I would say, in 6th place. Sorry to say that, Ben, but let's go back. Ben at Preston, mate. Quick intro from yourself.
I can't believe you've done that to me already off the bat, but yeah, I'm Ben on YouTube. You'll find me as BenHD. I make videos around the Championship, so preview, score predictions, and reacting to the games and things like that. And I've been a season ticket holder at Preston now for the last 8 or so years, so yeah, that's me.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, sorry, I know these aren't great, are they? I know when I'm at work and stuff and they do these intros, you're like, as it's coming round, I should have preempted you. Sorry, Ben. Moving on, Mr. Dore, with his lovely throw, mate. Quick introduction.
My name's Ben as well, but I'm Mr. Dore with, as you know, DoreOnTour. I follow National Forest home and away, and I've been a season ticket holder for 19 years now.
Cool. And of course, I guess the godfather of the Championship football vloggers, he seems to bring us all together. Billy from Beesotted, quick intro, fella.
Hi, how you doing? Thanks for inviting us on. I'm Billy Grant from Beesotted, the Brentford blog as well. I mean, we're having pretty good season actually, which is quite rare for us. But I'm enjoying myself, or until the break, of course. We're going to see Brentford for 30 plus years now, seeing them mainly in the lower reaches of the leagues as they are, sort of division 3rd tier and 4th tier is where I've seen them most. So to be quite honest with you, the last 6 years in the Championship, I've been really, really, really enjoying. And if something happens, it's great. And if it doesn't really matter because I'm enjoying it.
Oh my God, great stuff. Fingers crossed for you, mate. Fingers crossed. And then moving on, we have Farrell Monk. I mean, probably the best name I've ever seen. Like it should be in lights, that name. It's like an actor's name. Farrell Monk from the Fulhamish pod, mate.
Joe, if you want to send me a light to put behind me for some YouTube stuff, that'd be very handy. Yeah, my name's Farrell. I'm from the Fulhamish podcast. There's also an online blog as well. Been following the highs and lows of being a Fulham fan for well over 30 years now. So long may it continue.
Good, man, good. And then finally, obviously you all know me, but we'll move on to 2nd position, West Brom, and Conor from West Brom FanTv.
You had to get the position thing in, didn't you?
What's that, sorry?
Rub it in a little bit first. No, but I'm Conor from West Brom FanTv. Been going to the West Brom game since I was 4 years old. First ever game I went to with my dad, and I've just loved West Brom ever since. Obviously, you can find it on YouTube from FanTv, blogs, previews, all that stuff.
Great stuff, and it's all smashing stuff from the guys that have just introduced themselves, and all links will be in the description too. So make sure you do check them out. Of course, then, so onto the reason for this video, I thought I would bring the top 6 together because they're, it's going to impact us the most how this season pans out. Of course, Premiership's almost there, within reach. And there's a number of permutations that could happen on the back of this season and this current situation that we're in. Obviously today, Friday, great timing. As I said, League 2 have come out after a meeting with the EFL and basically said their season's, done. It's curtailed. It's finished. What's going to happen? It's going to be shown on finished on a points per game weighted scenario. Promotions will happen. And if that was, you know, to happen in the Championship. I believe if we don't get, you know, Project Restart, as they call it in the Prem, I think teams are due to be back on the 25th of May for training, season to start around the 6th, maybe 13th of June. My opinion is I don't see it happening. I think the Premier League will finish. You know, the money's there. It's bound to, you know, it's watched all over the world. I just think the Championship, for me, it's just my opinion. I don't think we will see it finish, and therefore we'll go down the same route as what League Two has. And that would mean finishing the season on a weighted point per game scenario, which would, of course, mean Leeds would go up as champions, would be back in the Premier League. I know people will say, oh, you've done it on a technicality. I wouldn't care. You know, I just want to get back there. You know, it's massive. And I guess I just wanted your guys' thoughts on that situation, what it means for you. If you're happy with it, you know, null and void isn't going to happen. I don't think that, you know, you guys in the playoffs, you know, say from a Fulham Brentford perspective, are you looking and thinking we could maybe catch Leeds and West Brom? Is that fair? You know, I just wanted to get a flavour of your thoughts, and I thought it'd be good for, you know, Leeds fans and fans of the Championship to get thoughts on that. So we'll start with Ben. Obviously, massive to be in the playoffs if it is finishing like that. No, what are your thoughts, fella?
Yeah, I think that I agree with you what you say about null and void. I think that that's just off the table immediately. Points per game is an interesting one. I think that in an ideal situation, this season does get to be played out. But like you say, with the Championship, the money that's in there compared to the Premier League, I don't know how realistic that is. The teams that are going to be, I guess, not so happy if points per game was to come in would be the ones that are just outside the playoffs at the moment, because I think that one of the reasons why it's such a great league is because of how congested it is in that part of the table. I think there's 3 points separating 6th and 11th at the moment. So obviously all those teams will still think they've got a reasonable chance of getting in there. But from a Preston fan's point of view, I wouldn't mind points per game, because judging off our form before this break, you know, we'd only won one of our last 5 matches. So we were sort of slipping in, just about hanging on in there in the top 6. So it wouldn't be the worst case situation in the world. But like I said, the ideal is that we play, but I'm not sure how feasible that is at the moment.
Yeah, of course. And if it was to finish points per game weight, which I think it will, how do you fancy your chances against it'd be Fulham you would play? What do you reckon, home and away? How do you reckon that would pan out?
Well, I think, you know, it's a bit of a cliche, but obviously anything can happen in the playoffs and anything like that. To be honest, out of all the teams that are in the playoffs at the moment, the one team I don't want to really play is Fulham, just because of Mitrovic and his record against us is absolutely ridiculous. While he was at Newcastle, he was a joke. And for Fulham, he always seems to bite against us as well. But I think we beat you in the game we had at Deepdale earlier on this season. With a fully fit squad, I think we would be the underdog, and I think we'd play into that, really.
Well, and trust me, I know. I mean, it's a year to the day since Derby beat us at Ellen Road in that horrible game. So I know anything can happen in the playoff. I've been getting a lot of stick, but if you don't laugh, you'll cry, man. I've done my hurting over that. But thank you for that, Ben. Moving on then, you know, Nottingham Forest and Mr. DoreOnTour. How do you see it finishing? Do you see it going the points per game way? Do you want it to finish? What are your thoughts, fella?
I'm the same with Ben. I think points, because I think it's the teams that blow up the blow. If it does stay in the playoffs, they're going to get frustrated. So same as Ben. I think stick with the teams in the playoffs, and yeah, I think stick with the same teams in the playoffs, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and of course, yourselves, you'd be up against, you know, Brentford. How would you see that one going? I believe that'd be a great tie, personally. How would you see that one going, fella?
Well, we've already beat Brentford twice, home and away, 1-0. I don't want to rub it in, Billy.
So you got your 2 wins.
But yeah, I think I prefer to play Brentford because we've got a horrible record against Preston, as Ben knows. We've already beat Fulham at their patch. So either Fulham or Brentford. I'll take one of them two, but Preston, they can stay away from us because no chance. I prefer Preston in the final than anything else.
Well, and that brings us on nicely to Billy. I mean, I'll get your thoughts as well, but I just wondered if, and I want to ask Farrell this as well. Do Did you see yourselves catching Leeds and West Brom at all with the games that are remaining? Obviously, 9 games. Leeds are in some decent form, if I do say so. But did you see yours catching us at all? What are your thoughts? Do you still want it to go ahead to have that opportunity to do it?
Well, I think it's difficult. I mean, I think the big chance that we had, I mean, in January, we came out of January in fine form. We beat QPR and we were great then. And we had, your ex-man, Pontus Jansson, who was leading at the back at that time. We had the tightest defence in the league, even tighter than Leeds, which had a great defence. And also we had the highest goal scorers. So at that time, we thought we were flying. And really, we thought if we carry on like we're going now, we'll catch West Brom. But Pontus got injured. And I know it's not all about one player, but the Achilles heel that Brentford have had over the past, 4, 5, 6, even when we were in Division 1, we've always been like an attacking side, but our defence has let us down. We always let in these dodgy goals. So this season, we went all out to decide to actually sort that problem out. Okay, so we sorted that problem out, and we brought Pontus Jansson in. We brought in even Pinnock as well, and we just said, look, this is what we're going to do. We brought these players in, and to be quite honest with you, are you still there?
Yeah, still here, man. Still here.
Okay, so we brought the players in. We've tightened up the defence, and when Pontus went out, we had a run of games which we didn't do so well, and we came against Leeds and Forest in that little run as well. Forest came down, and fair play to them as well. Like, they beat us up at there. Forest are a side that we don't want to play. Because the way that they play their football, they basically soak it up, bang, hit you on the break, and that's what they did to us at their place, and they did it to ours as well. And then, unfortunately, Calvin Phillips came back from a 3-match suspension down at our place, came back, and he absolutely ran that midfield. And we very fortunate to get a point. So that was, I think, the moment for us that was lost for us, actually kind of gaining that momentum. But saying that, now that we've had the break, all the injured players that we've had, as of everybody else, Pontus is back, Cocho is back, Canos looks like he's going to be back as well. All the key players are back. So we're on a bit of an even playing field. So for me, ideally, if it would happen, I would love to see the season played out, because you just never know. It's a 46-game season. And one interesting thing is that our director of football, Phil Giles, Brentford are really good when they, with their whole thing about talking to the fans, the fan engagement thing and all that. And Phil Giles spoke to the fans on the Griffin Park Grapevine, which is the forum, about the beginning of the lockdown it was. Yeah. And his thoughts was, he said straight, he goes, look, I don't see any reason why we're rushing back to actually start playing football. Yes, I know there are complications possibly with contracts, but then after the transfer window might move. So if you can't sign for another team, what else are you going to do? So he said, why are we rushing? Why are we trying to close this off? Okay, he understands the Division 2 scenario, Division 1, but he's going, at our scenario at the moment now, why aren't we waiting till August or September or October to finish this off if we have to, and then the next division could come? And I think that's a real key point, because I'm sort of feeling that way as well.
Yeah, no, I understand why. In that, because I was of that thinking as well. Why are we worrying about next season? Let's finish what's here, what's present. Let's do that and then worry about that. But I do believe they've said, haven't they, that they want everything concluded by the 31st of July. Whether or not that remains the case, but I believe that's what Rick Parry and the EFL have said. But I do agree with you as well with the turning point, even from a Leeds perspective. That was that Brentford game. We came there and for me, we were the better side, and not many teams do that, at Griffin Park. And Calvin Phillips was unreal that day, But yeah, look, in an ideal scenario, I agree with you. I'd want to play it out, because I can imagine I don't think I'd mind, because I'd be in the Prem, but there'd be a lot of, oh yeah, you got it on a technicality, but that's football, no matter what, that will always be the case. But yeah, agree with all that, Billy. And moving on to Farrell, I guess same question for you, mate. Do you see would you have been able to rein in Leeds and West Brom, and what are your thoughts, mate?
Firstly, I think it's worth saying that, there are still 9 games left of the season. And as we've seen in previous championship seasons, a lot can happen. Yeah. And this is where sort of like the question of fairness comes into mind. And I think about seasons gone by when, if you think about Fulham's escape from relegation back in 2008, what if that was robbed of us because, the season finished 3 or 4 games early? And there's a lot of teams all around the country at both ends of the table who were thinking the same way. Where's our chance to, play every team this division and have the season ended fairly? And, you know, when it comes to the automatic promotion places, yes, it's very, very difficult to chase down Leeds and West Brom, who are top teams this division. But anything can happen, you know. Fulham are certainly capable of overcoming that deficit if Leeds and West Brom falter. But obviously, you know, we're equally capable of messing it up, as I've seen throughout my lifetime of supporting Fulham as well. So, you know, anything can happen. That's why we actually watch football matches. It's why we go to games thinking, I don't know what's going to happen today. And it's exciting and it's entertaining. You know, the game isn't done on a points per game. The league isn't done on a points per game basis. It's played on a set of grass amongst some stands. And that's why we are football fans, really. So, you know, and that's why I'm kind of the position, whatever we do, I want it to be the fairest system possible, especially when it comes to, you know, when you're thinking about teams like Charlton and Barnsley and Luton, who are in the bottom three at the moment. You just don't want them seeing them just chucked away, not even thought about, because some other teams are like, well, we can go for promotion. Because in the past, you know, when you're thinking about 50, 60 years ago, a team gets relegated, they've got a perfectly good chance of coming back up again. It's not going to spell financial ruin. It's not going to be mass redundancies for the staff members or anything like that. But in this day and age, unfortunately, that's what a team going down from the Championship to League One or League One to League Two. So there are massive implications here, and it's not just, you know, who might get into the playoffs or who might get into the automatic promotions here. It's got wide ramifications for the entirety of the Football League.
Yeah, I mean that's huge, man, and a well thought out and put across, educated, thought about that. I mean, in that then, so I get, what would be your fairest? I guess you're saying, look, we finish it and that's that. If we can't finish it and, you know, COVID doesn't allow us to do that, then for you, is the points per game the fairest scenario? How would you look at it, Farrell?
Well, I'm kind of with Billy in that regard. Why is there a rush to finish the season? You know, let's try and finish the season as we should do, because that is the fairest possible way we can do, and then worry about next season when we can, and get a better idea of what we're doing. I think it's great that the leagues and everyone are trying to plan for the best case scenario, and trying to think about every permutation, every sort of scenario that we could do, and try and find the fairest way. But for me, the fairest way is to play out the games when we can and not rush into anything, really, because like I said, the ramifications can be huge for a lot of teams.
Yeah, of course. I think, in an ideal scenario, I would love that as well. I mean, because, you know, it was only the other day, from Leeds' perspective, it was 10 years since we were promoted, from League One. And just seeing the images of that, you know, I'd sort of put it to the back of my mind, but seeing the images and the fans on the pitch, and I thought, you know what? That moment's going to be robbed from me, that I'm never going to get that back. And when you're in the Premiership, it's really difficult to experience that, you're going for trophies, etc. But promotion's a real big thing. And I in an ideal scenario, I would want that myself, let's forget about next season, and get this one finished. And it's all about the here and now. But, I think the powers that be might take that out of our hands. And, But we will see. But I just think with the League Two stuff happening today, I see that's the way we'll probably go. And undoubtedly, teams will be, upset. I get it. I understand that. And them in the Prem, as well. Obviously, we'll see how that goes. Moving on. I mean, Conor, you'll be like me. Look, social media Leeds fans, they're buzzing right now if it does go that way, because ultimately it means Premier League football, and it'll be the same for yourself at West Brom, mate. How are you? How are you feeling? What are your thoughts?
Well, I know that it's the ideal situation. Leeds and West Brom are obviously going to want to just get promoted because it's promotion at the end of the day. But like you just touched on, you're going to be robbed of that moment of actually experiencing the promotion. And I think it's really unfair for teams like Brentford, Fulham, Preston, Nottingham Forest. I think it's really unfair for them. You never know. Anything can happen in football. There's still 9 games left. I'm confident in the team's ability. I do think if the season goes ahead, I do think Leeds and West Brom will be promoted regardless. But, there's still that chance for the other top 6 teams. And like the person from Fulham said, sorry, I forgot your name. My mind's awful.
Oh.
You know, teams like Luton, Barnsley and stuff like that, that's going to have a massive implication on them because they're not exactly the richest teams. And, you know, that if they go down, the money's just not there. And I know it's not much difference in the Championship, but it makes a massive difference to a team like Luton and Barnsley. But I'd be excited to see the season go ahead. You know, we've got players coming back from injury like Dean Garner. You don't really want those players to return and, well, go back to the parent clubs. And I think it would be nice to see the season, you know, go ahead just so teams have a fair chance. Like I said, I do think Leeds and West Brom will be promoted because I just think, I don't know, it's in the dominant teams, but I would be really scared at the same time. I think the team I'd be scared of the most, and I've said it all season, is Brentford. I'm sorry to everyone else, but I would be frightened if the season did go ahead because I just think Brentford, their side is so fluid, it's so attacking, and it's a brilliant side. They were literally the best side what West Brom faced at the Hawthorns when they came down. And, you know, I'd be worried, but at the same time, I do have confidence in the team's ability.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Go on, Billy.
I was going to say it's interesting because you were talking about a very pertinent point here, and you were talking about the fact that if we go up now, you know, you've got promotion, but on our little Beesotted chat, you know, there's quite a few of us on there, and we talked about that very same point, and we said, okay, tell you something, if all of a sudden tomorrow they turned around and say hypothetically, just because there's 6 of us on here, so I've got to do the hypothetical, they decided to promote all 6 of our teams tomorrow. So that was it, end of story. They promoted us to the Premier League, okay? The characters on the Beesotted chat actually said, I'd be gutted. They said, oh, I don't know if I want that. That's almost worse than voiding the season. So, I mean, it's interesting to get the thoughts of what everybody else would think, because for me, I'm thinking, I actually don't really want to just go up tomorrow, because to me, it's not about the promotion. It's about going to the games, enjoying yourselves, going to your mates. It's that whole celebration. And the promotion is great, but playing in the Premier League after us wanting to be there for so many years is actually not really the major key. I'm just interested to see what everyone else's thoughts are on that.
Yeah,
I think as well.
Oh, for me,
sorry.
A fan said this as well on it was on TalkSport. A Leeds United fan went on and said he'd rather not get promoted. He wants to be able to, you know, see that in the flesh and do it that way. You know, 9 games to go, 75% of the season gone, up there since day dot. I think we deserve to go up. And listen, this is not any sort of knock on any team in the Championship, but I'd much rather be playing Man United at home next season than a team in the Championship. And that's what it boils down to. To me personally, I get it, you know, the integrity and all that sort of stuff, but we've been at this division far too long, and I want them big games back. And not that there isn't big games in the division, you know, we've seen big teams drop down as well, you know. But for me, it's all about playing, you know, your cities. Well, for me, Man United and Chelsea, but you know, you get what I'm getting at. Your Liverpool, etc. That's the big thing for me, and that's what my thoughts are.
Would you not be more excited if, you know, the season was to finish? Because I don't know about you, but I do think Leeds are good enough this season to go up. Wouldn't you rather? I know that you haven't been up in a long time, and I know there's that excitement of going up, but wouldn't you rather experience the promotion, what you haven't had in so many years, than just go up?
Oh yeah, 100%, of course. And I think if we play the season out with 9 games to go, we'll go up. You know, I do. Yeah. I genuinely believe that. I'm not, and that might sound arrogant, but I just think, you know, even the time off that we've had, it'll be even better for us, because we know Bielsa works them so hard, and we've seen at the start of both seasons, when they're fresh, we blow teams away. You know, we've seen that. You know, it was the same at Stoke when we, you know, beat them. It was the same this season against Bristol City. And if I came back and I looked at it, and in all honesty, the 9 games that we have left out of all the teams in the top 6, I remember doing it on the video. We had the most teams in the bottom half and the best, you know, results against teams. I know that doesn't matter when you're fighting for relegation. We've seen that with Wigan, for example, last season when they beat us, they derailed us. But I just would fancy us, you know. I genuinely would fancy us to go up. So that would be my thoughts. I know Billy asked the question, Farrell.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, I think as we all would think that, you know, Leeds deserve, in inverted commas, to go up because they've been good on the whole for the most part. But, you know, what no disrespect to the 5 other people here, but the game isn't played by what we think is going to happen. The game is played you know, out on the pitch. And regardless, you know, it could be the fixture gods might shine the light on certain teams, for example, and they play the top 9 teams within the next 9 games, which, I mean, to be honest, that's actually Fulham. Fulham actually play like 7 of the top 9 teams in the next, in the remaining fixtures. So, you know, and there would be other teams that might look at that and think, well, they might have dropped a hell of a lot of points in that time. But there might be other fans out there who go like, yeah, but Fulham are 3rd at the moment and they deserve to go up and all this kind of thing. I totally get your point that, you know, the dreamland is welcoming illustrious teams to your home ground and playing them. And I totally get that at all. I totally get that 150%. You know, growing up a Fulham fan when you're down in the doldrums and then working up and realizing that dream is an amazing thing. But at the end of the day, it's a competition, and you need to go through all of the fragments of it before you actually realize that dream.
Yeah, great. I mean, I'll put it out there to each one of you then. Do you see this season being finished on the pitch or off it? And we'll start with Ben.
I'm still hopeful that this season is going to go ahead on the pitch. And I think that if I had to put a bet on it now, I would just be in favour of that happening. I think that there may be a situation where that is going to be able to happen. You know, you see the figures of the amount of tests that each championship club's going to have to do each week, and how feasible is that for every club in the championship. There's a lot of financial implications that are going to go into it and things like that. And I think that going back to the points per game thing, it's such a... There's so many pros and cons to each thing like this. Like, I think that championship table at this time last season, I think Leeds were top and Aston Villa were about 10th or something like that. And obviously, we all know what went on to happen then. So there's so many unknowns for it not to be able to happen. And going back to the point about finishing the season now, like being in the stadium and things like that, I think as a Preston fan, I'd take anything for promotion, really. You know, I'm from Lancashire. All the Lancashire clubs around us have been in the Premier League, apart from Preston, really. It's the one thing that everyone's got over us. But it wouldn't be the same. But if it comes down to it, I think there may be a situation where it gets played. But like I say, I'm very in between at the moment.
And it's like you say, and I guess in your thoughts as well, you'd much rather be playing Man United or etc. this season, and that's the point you make, and I get that as well. And Mr. Dore, what do you see as going ahead, mate? How do you see it finishing?
I think I want Forest to go up. That's all I'm bothered about. Like, so we've been in this league for the last 20 years, and I just think just get over and done with now. There's so much things going to happen.
And how do you see it getting finished, mate? On the pitch or off it?
On the pitch.
On the pitch, yeah.
It's got to, like, yeah, it's on the pitch, because what else can we do? It's like, if it's off the pitch, the other teams below us are just going to moan. So.
Yeah. If you're in Premier League, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is what I'm saying. I don't care.
Yeah, like I said, it's got to be sorted as soon as possible. But like I said, on the pitch, it's better. But
yeah,
I want Forest to go up.
Yeah, man, of course. And Billy, how do you see it finishing, mate?
Well, I'll tell you something. I think what's going to be quite interesting is tomorrow's experiment. It's not experiment, but tomorrow. What's happening over in Germany?
Yeah,
because that's a real litmus test. You know, I don't know if anybody. We're in lockdown now, so you've got plenty of time to do different things. You know what I'm saying? It's one to normally do. So one decides to download the copy of the German documentation they have for playing their matches, all 50 pages of them. I think I read all of them. And, let's just say they are very, very thorough, the Germans. It's unbelievable. They've got the timing as to, you know, who's going to be in the stadium, in around the stadium, you know, 2 hours before kickoff, you know, half an hour before kickoff, at kickoff, you know, all sorts of different elements. So they've got it sussed out how to do it. So I think obviously a lot of people are going to be looking at Germany to see, okay, they've done it. Now let's see how we can replicate what they've done. So they've got, you know, quite a few games going on as well, you know, pretty much a full program going on this weekend. So it'll be really interesting to see how that pans itself out over the next few weeks. I have to also put my hand up and say that, you know, even though missing football a little bit. I mean, who puts their hands up to say that they didn't watch the Korean football match last weekend as well? So I have to admit, I've watched that live as well. And again, I was looking to see, you know, how is that going to work out? You know, are the players going to be, when they tackle each other, are they not going to be near each other? You know, when they score, are they going to hug or they're not going to hug? What's happening in and around the stadium? And I'm going to say this for a fact. That obviously, I mean, I love live football like everybody else does. They all want to go to games. They all want to do this. But we're in a situation where we may or we may not have games. The first thing that's important, the most important thing, is that everyone is safe. The players are safe. The scenario is safe. Now, once the scenario is safe, now with us, our fans, we can't be there. But we can see it now. I mean, if anyone watched the England game against Croatia that time, it was a nightmare. It's terrible. There's no fans in the stadium. It was dead. But it was interesting how the Koreans did. They sort of piped in this music, which sounds horrendous. You know what I'm saying? They piped in this sort of, not music, the fans. So there was like these fans chanting under drums and everything like that. But the way that they sort of kind of cut it, and the commentator was actually being quite energetic. It almost sounds like sometimes, you know, when you either watch like a reserve game or a B team game where there's a crowd there, you can't necessarily see them. Or if you sort of watch some lower league games where the perimeters, like the seats at the front of the stadium are empty, but because there's a crowd there, in your mind, you're thinking, there is a crowd there. I believe there's a crowd there. So the game wasn't as bad as I thought. So, I mean, I'm throwing those as a sort of kind of ray of light. If it does go into TV, you know, people say football without fans is nothing. And I totally believe that. Yeah. But if we're seeing a case that we need to actually move this forward, you know, then maybe, it may not be as bad scenario as we want to. Will it be decided on or off the pitch? I believe it will be decided on the pitch because there's enough, I think, drive. I think there's enough organisation and use the M word as well, money, because, you know, I mean, I know our owners put a lot of money into it. And he's, you know, they're going to make sure that, you know, they do everything they can do to make it happen. I think the only reason why something may not happen is if the Premier League decide not to have any relegation, right? Which is somebody who's talking about that. And if they don't do that, then there is no promotion from our league, and Leeds and West Brom and Brentford and everybody else will stay as they are. So that'll be the only stickler, I believe. Yeah, cool. I mean, let's hope that doesn't happen from my perspective. And you are right, you know, everyone's health is paramount. And of course, I believe that the EFL and Rick Parry have done really well in this scenario, if I'm being totally honest. I think Rick Parry's done pretty well, and they do seem a real appetite to want to get it going. So hopefully it will. I know you touched on Germany. I was going to ask you as well at the end, you know, who are you following over the next games? Mine will be Dortmund because Haaland's there, you know. But yeah, I forget which team it is before I move on to Farrell, but there's a team that you can pay to have cardboard cutouts put in the stadium of your family, right? I forget. Union Berlin. Yeah, exactly. And I just thought that was absolutely fantastic. So if they do that in the Championship, I'll peer through the nose just to see my face in the stand. But yeah, we'll move on to Farrell. How do you see it going, fella?
Well, I suppose the cardboard cutout thing. I think at the Brentford Community Stadium next year they might have to do that, considering how many seats they need to fill. Sorry, mate.
He's been saving that one up.
There was a nice moment to put it in there. I do apologise. But yeah, so thankfully, I mean, I just had this ready, but I've got my FC Köln scarf ready.
Yes.
Getting ready to see the OG GOAT, as in Hennes. Waiting to see him at the weekend. Looking forward to that. But yeah, so it's an interesting one. I do feel that what we would like and what's actually going to happen in the league is going to be very, very different. Really, it's going to be a very, very interesting time. You know, the phrase "unprecedented times" has been overused over and over again, and what is going to happen is going to be completely new, and it's going to be completely different to anything else that we're going to have anywhere down the line. And probably what's going to happen once the Premier League decides what's going to happen, because we're in this unique situation that the Football League and the Premier League are two very, very different organisations with two very different pressures. If they decide that there's going to be, as you quite rightly said, there's going to be no relegations, there's going to be no promotions unless we're going to have a bumper 23-team season next year, which I don't think is going to happen. But yeah, it's I'm kind of looking forward to what is going to happen, because hopefully football will have the final say, really.
Yeah, that's great. That, you're right. That's a lovely way to put it. I mean, if it was, if the Premier League wasn't to have relegation and it was to null and void, or it'd be, I don't think I could take it. Bielsa would be on his way, etc. And that's one thing. I wore my Bielsa t-shirt today because I was genuinely shocked that he didn't get a clean sweep in the championship team of the season thing that we did for Billy. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. I was so in solidarity. I've wore this today because guy's a magician.
Is there a Leeds fan with some delusions of grandeur in the group? I didn't know that, or anything like
that. Brilliant. Fair enough. But yeah, guys, I know that I don't want to over-egg it, but hopefully, we can finish it. Does anyone anything want to add at all just before we do finish?
Hey, you forgot.
Oh, sorry,
yeah.
Conor. I did. Yeah, sorry, my apologies.
How dare you involve your channel in?
Sorry, my bad, mate. Go on.
That's like taking a girl out to dinner and not buying a dinner.
Sorry.
Now,
Yorkshireman, mate, tight, you see. We're tight.
Obviously, West Brom and Leeds are going to want the season to finish, and we're going to want to, get promoted. But you know what? I think the season will be played on the pitch, and I do think it will be behind closed doors. Like people have said, I do think they'll be looking at Germany. I think all eyes will be on Germany to see what they do and looking how they can make it better, not just replicate it, but make it better, because they're going to want to make a good impression through times like this. We're one of the worst countries in the coronavirus, aren't we? So they're going to want to replicate this. And if they do replicate it, it'll be even better. So it'll make them look good. But I do hope the season is on the pitch. Even if we're just tuning in to watch it, I think it'll be more exciting than the season just finishing. And I do believe it will be on the pitch what happens. No relegations and no promotions. That's just a massive kick in the teeth for someone like West Brom, and especially Leeds, who haven't been up for a long time, and other teams like, Preston and Brentford, who, you kind of wouldn't have expected them to be in the position they're in, because they're not. If you look where Brentford was a few years ago, they were in League One. Preston, they haven't got, no disrespect to Ben, but they haven't got the most amazing squad, but they've still achieved a lot, especially when you look at teams like West Brom, Fulham and all the other teams. We've got a lot more, you would say, a better squad on paper, but they've achieved a lot. And, fair play to teams like that. And I do want the season to go ahead, and I do think it will go ahead behind closed doors.
Good man, and I think that's a fantastic way to finish. I think we all echo that. Hopefully, it will go ahead. My friend was saying to me the other day, like the mad situation would be Leeds will get promoted. It'll all be behind closed doors, and we'll get relegated the same season, and we won't get to see it, and we'll be back in the grounds in the Championship again. But there you go. Hopefully, just to say to you all, thank you so much for coming on. Please do stay safe. I hope you enjoy the football this weekend. I can't wait for it. I'm just gutted that it's all on at the same time. I wouldn't have minded if they just staggered it, throughout the day, so we could just watch loads. But there you go. Yeah. But yeah, that's it. If no one's got anything to add, thank you so much for coming on, guys, and I'll leave it there.